Little girl's touching plea to janitor reveals a transformative secret that saved her dying mom. Emily's small frame trembled as she entered the dimly lit janitor's closet, the smell of disinfectant clinging to the air like a heavy burden. At just 10 years old, she felt more like a weary adult battling overwhelming odds. Each day at school usually brought a glimmer of joy, but this week had drained the laughter from the hallways. Her mother lay in bed, her strength wavering as the illness tightened its grip. The weight of worry rested in the pit of Emily's stomach, a tight knot that never seemed to loosen. Life had become an endless cycle of whispered prayers to the universe, each night desperately longing for a miracle that could slip through her fingers like water damar. Thompson, the janitor, shuffled into view, his presence filling the cramped room with an unexpected warmth. He emerged from shadows, a gentle giant within a world that felt increasingly harsh. Emily hesitated, biting her lip. Her heart raced as the undeniable truth loomed inside her, begging to be voiced, needing to escape the confines of her chest. What good could a simple wish do? Yet at that moment, amidst the vulnerable chaos swirling in her mind, Emily took a tentative step forward. "Mr. Thompson," she whispered, the sound of her own voice a fragile tremor in the silence. "Can I tell you something?" The plea hung between them, weighty with desperate hope. He looked down, his brow furrowing with concern. "You can tell me anything, kid." A rush of thoughts collided in her mind, swirling fears battling for dominance. Would he understand? What if her fear crushed the tiny spark illuminating her heart? I need help. My mom she's really sick. I don't want to lose her." The confession fell from her lips, each word laced with trembling urgency. Mr. Thompson flinched. The depth of her anguish resonated within him, igniting the dormant ember of his past, the time he'd spent in the world of medicine, unraveling the mysteries of the human body before life had dealt him a harsh blow. "We'll figure something out," he pledged, but in his mind, doubt snaked through the promise. The institutional barriers felt insurmountable, a labyrinth that had once entangled him. "Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As days passed, Mr. Thompson dived into a daunting and relentless investigation. Emily observed him from a distance, following his journey with admiration mixed with fear. What if he couldn't find anything? What if what little hope she clung to slipped away like sand between her fingers? Thoughts ricocheted through her mind relentlessly. She had already lost so much. "Mr. Thompson," she whispered one afternoon, her voice barely a shimmer against the backdrop of his fervent research. "What if we can't do it? What if I lose her?" The question pierced the silence, a fragile plea that echoed her deepest fears. Her heart raced at the thought, a future painted in darkness, one she dared not dwell on. The glimmer of hope felt fragile against the all-consuming reality of despair gnawing at her resolve. In that moment, the shadows of doubt loomed large, threatening to swallow them both whole. Yet as uncertainty hung in the air, both Emily and Mr. Thompson knew this was only the beginning of a fight neither had anticipated. With their fates intertwined, they would confront the healthcare system determined to keep hope alive, even as the odds stacked against them threatened to make it all seem futile. Every day bled into the next, a haze of anxiety tightening around Emily like an unyielding vice. As Mr. Thompson worked tirelessly, she found herself drifting into the background of his determination. The janitor pored over books, researched medical terms on the outdated school computers, and scoured library archives during his breaks. Emily could feel a spark within him, a tenacity born from his past, one she instinctively admired, but admiration wasn't enough to push away her fears. Nights spent staring at the ceiling, her mother's quiet breaths punctuating the stillness of the house, left Emily raw and restless. It was a grim reminder of the limited time they had together. One rainy afternoon during lunch, Emily gathered her courage and approached Mr. Thompson in the hallway. He was jotting down notes, his brow furrowed in concentration. Swallowing hard, she asked, "What have you found? Is there still hope?" His eyes met hers, warm yet shadowed by the weight of uncertainty. "I've found some possible treatments," he began hesitantly. "But they aren't easy to access. We'll need to approach the doctors and see if they're willing to consider alternatives." The words hung between them, thick with gravity. Emily felt her resolve harden as urgency ignited a spark within her. She knew the healthcare system often quashed creativity and compassion under bureaucracy. "I can help," she said, surprising even herself. "What can I do?" For a moment, Mr. Thompson just stared. His expression shifted from surprise to cautious encouragement. Helping often begins with knowing how to ask the right questions. "Do you think you can talk to your mom's doctors?" The thought struck Emily with both fear and excitement. She had always been a passive observer, standing by while adults dictated the story. But what if she could become a protagonist in her own narrative? What if she could advocate for her mother as fiercely as love demanded? Determined, Emily began to sketch out her own plan. After school, she started reading everything Mr. Thompson had gathered. Though the terms swam around her, their meanings flickered into view as she craved understanding. By nightfall, she had compiled a list of questions and potential treatment alternatives, inspired by the medical journals Mr. Thompson had shared. With every word understood, she felt some of her fear dissipate. Each moment spent in this newfound quest for knowledge fueled a growing intention to take charge of the situation. The fear no longer paralyzed her, it became a call to action that a week into their investigation, the day came for them to meet Dr. Hargrove, her mother's physician. Standing outside his office, Emily's heart raced. Would this knowledgeable man dismiss her concerns as a child's naive wish? Would he take her seriously? The thought alone made her stomach churn. Thompson leaned down, putting a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Remember, Emily, every question asked with intent has the power to spark change. They may be the ones with the degrees, but your voice carries just as much weight when it comes to your mom's care." With those words igniting a spark of confidence, Emily squared her shoulders, stepping forward as her breath steadied. The door creaked open, and the scent of antiseptic flooded her senses mixed with the faint, sterile scent of hope, but as she crossed the threshold, she caught a glimpse of the familiar faces of reluctant empathy and hardened resolve sitting across from the doctor's desk. Dr. Hargrove's expectant expression combined with the sharpness of his waiting pen sent a shiver down her spine. The weight of this confrontation loomed heavy before her. In that moment, as the door closed behind her, the stakes rose higher than ever before. There, amidst the sterile walls that seemed to pulsate with authority, Emily grasped the intensity of the fight she was willing to embark upon. The conversation would determine the trajectory of her mother's treatment, but a deeper realization echoed within her: this was about more than her mom. It was about reclaiming her power, about not allowing fear to dictate her life anymore. As she prepared to speak, ready to challenge the status quo, uncertainty flickered like a specter at the edge of her mind. Would she find the words? Would she have the strength to push for what was rightfully hers? The moment of truth had arrived, but the real question was whether she could summon the courage to wield it effectively. With the tension alive in her chest, Emily took a deep breath. What awaited her beyond that door would redefine everything. Emily felt a prickling heat rising in her cheeks as Dr. Hargrove's gaze rested upon her. The sterile room, with its stark white walls and the faint hum of machines, felt both suffocating and alive with possibility. She had rehearsed 1,000 scenarios in her mind, but in that moment, the silence loomed larger than any speech she'd crafted. "Emily." Dr. Hargrove's voice cut through the weight of uncertainty, beckoning her to respond. "What brings you here today?" It was now or never. She clenched her fists at her sides, feeling the paper crumple beneath her grip, her carefully penned questions a tangle of tremors and aspirations. She inhaled deeply, visualizing the compassion she had witnessed in Mr. Thompson, the way his fervor for knowledge propelled their shared mission. I've been doing some research about my mom's condition," she began, her voice steadier than she anticipated. And I found possible treatments that might help her. I don't want to waste time. Can we talk about them? The doctor's brow furrowed slightly, his eyes narrowing in an analytical manner that sent another wave of doubt crashing over Emily. In that moment, she feared he might laugh at her, dismiss her inquiries like those of an overly zealous child. But instead, he glanced at the papers in her hands, interest flickering across his features. Sure, I'd be happy to discuss what you found, he said cautiously. But I want to remind you that medical decisions are made based on clinical data and proven methodologies. The approaches we take are about what works. Her heart sank, but she pressed on, not ready to back down. But what if there are alternatives? Treatments that consider quality of life instead of just numbers. I believe Mom deserves every opportunity. Dr. Hargrove studied her, a conflicted expression playing over his features. Emily could feel the weight of the room shift, as if he questioned the status quo just by acknowledging her presence. I can appreciate your passion, Emily, he finally replied, his tone softening somewhat. But these alternatives you speak of might not align with current protocols. A mixture of frustration and determination ignited within her. She was no longer just a concerned daughter, she was a problem solver. But I've learned a lot. There are studies showing that holistic approaches can benefit patients, especially in terminal conditions. Why not consider them? The air felt electric as Emily anticipated his response, aware that she was challenging not only his authority but also established medical doctrine. This was a personal battle, and though her mother's fate hung precariously in the balance, Emily felt an unexpected sense of empowerment. Forcing herself to hold Dr. Hargrove's gaze, she could see the moment he grappled with her challenge. A flicker of respect flickered in his eyes, but questions loomed on the horizon. All right, let us look at what you found, he conceded, though the hesitance still dripped from his tone. As they delved into the specifics, Emily presenting her findings, breathing life into the ideas that had consumed her, they began to dance over areas of discomfort. The tension eased, like a taut string slowly relaxing under pressure. With every successful connection she made, her confidence soared. Just as Emily felt a breeze of victory waft through the turmoil, she watched Dr. Hargrove scribble notes, his brow furrowing, and she sensed the moment slipping away. However, he countered, the ultimate decision rests with your mother. It's crucial to align her wishes with any treatment plan. You must understand this journey is her choice. Emily's stomach twisted, the sobering reality slamming into her. While she had battled external doubt, now it seemed she faced her own internal conflict. What if her mother refused the alternative she believed in so fervently? What if the fight she began with such passion led to a revelation she wasn't ready to confront? The conversation danced around mutual respect and dread. The power struggle shifted from authority to vulnerability. This was her chance, yet, she was teetering on the edge of a deeper personal discovery. As the meeting concluded with tentative plans for a follow-up discussion, Emily emerged into the world outside, a storm brewing in her mind. The fight was far from over, and with it came not just the battle for her mother, but an awakening within herself. With each step, she knew she could not let fear dictate her actions anymore. She needed clarity, direction, not just for her mother but for the path leading to her own future. What strengths remained undiscovered within her? What consequences would her newfound bravery unleash? These questions burned in her mind as she walked away, a fire igniting her resolve. The conversation with Dr. Hargrove was not just a plea for her mother, it was the inception of something greater. In that chrysalis of hope and uncertainty, Emily realized she stood at the precipice of the unknown, ready to confront whatever awaited her on this journey. What lay ahead could transform not only her mother's fate but her destiny too. Will she confront the crux of her mother's choices, or will that confrontation reveal the limits of her newfound strength? The sun hung low in the sky as Emily stepped out of the hospital, its warmth pulling her out of the sterile confines of her worries. Yet, clarity remained elusive, overshadowed by the questions running rampant in her mind. Each footstep echoed with the weight of her choices and the looming reality that awaited her mother. At the core of it all lay a fear she hadn't fully acknowledged yet. What if her mother's choice led them down a path Emily could not accept? The vibrant colors of the sunset flickered to life, but Emily felt only the grey dampness of uncertainty. With the conversation with Dr. Hargrove swirling through her thoughts, she needed to refocus her energy. How could she present the alternatives to her mother in a way that ignited hope and agency rather than fear of the unknown? Instead of feeling defeated, she needed to harness that tension, a catalyst for action and change. A sudden idea sliced through her gloom, and she shifted seamlessly from contemplation to determination. Emily recalled the conversations she had with Mr. Thompson, the senior resident whose journey through illness had illuminated her own path. She needed more insights, more evidence to cradle her arguments as she prepared to stand firm in her beliefs. With purpose, she pulled out her phone. Her fingers skimmed across the screen, searching for articles that spoke directly to her mother's condition, research studies that detailed healing practices crafted from both modern medical research and holistic methods. They would be her arsenal. As the night deepened, the glow of her laptop bathed her in a warm light within the community library. Emily's South newfound drive invigorated her research. She immersed herself in texts that documented case studies of patients who had opted for alternative therapies. Emotional testimonies from families and professionals flooded her senses, each story lifting her spirits, reinforcing her resolve. The words formed a bridge between her aspirations and the reality she hoped to create. Hours slipped by unnoticed as the library emptied. Emily leaned back, stretching her tight muscles. Her laptop screen glittered with the multitude of information she had gathered, a tapestry of possibilities crafted from courage and hope. But would this be enough to convince her mother? Her heart raced at the thought of facing her mother's preconceived notions, or perhaps even her fear of the unconventional. With the sunrise not far ahead, Emily recognized that she needed an authentic conversation, one that acknowledged her mother's fears and hopes. Emotion swept over her as she considered how deeply her choices would impact not just her mother, but her entire family dynamic. In a moment of reflection, she understood that the empowerment she sought was not solely to sway her mother but to navigate the complexities of their relationship. Emily would have to tread with grace and understanding, embracing the vulnerability that lay beneath her mother's apprehension. As morning's first light broke, Emily prepared for the conversation that loomed ahead. She scrutinized her notes, ensuring they encapsulated not just the facts, but the emotional weight of her plea. She would appeal not only to the rationale of her mother's illness but also to her heart, like the way stories from promising recoveries had impacted her. Before stepping into her mother's room, she gathered her thoughts, a mix of hope and anxiety swirling within her. What if she could instill in her mother some belief in the alternative paths they could explore together? Would her mother be resilient in acknowledging her own desires, despite the daunting shadows ahead? The door creaking open marked the beginning of their pivotal discussion, a moment bathed in lingering tension. Where courage aligned with vulnerability, Emily knew she had the chance to spark a change. Yet, as she stepped into the room, a new, jarring thought struck her. What if her mother had already made a decision, one that could close the door on their hopes? Would Emily stand strong in the face of that truth, or would her strength crumble in the uncertainty of it all? With each heartbeat echoing through the chamber of possibility, destiny awaited just beyond that door. Emily paused outside her mother's room, heart pounding and mind racing. Each breath felt heavy with the weight of her intentions. The vivid thoughts swirling in her head turned to the words she had carefully prepared, but as she took a step inside, doubt threatened to erode her conviction. Her mother, finding some comfort in the familiar hospital environment, looked up from her bed, her expression a mix of weariness and hope. "Emily," her mother said, voice softer than usual. "You're up early." "I wanted to talk about everything," Emily replied, struggling to keep her composure. She felt a rush of urgency. The time for change was now. As she settled into the chair beside her mother's bed, Emily analyzed the scene, the sterile, clinical space that felt like an emotional prison. The room held echoes of grief and the promise of healing, but the latter felt so fragile. She glanced at her mother, noticing how the pallor of her skin did not merely denote sickness but a weariness that layered every answer with pain. "Mom, I've been doing a lot of thinking and research," she began, trying to keep her voice steady. "There are alternatives. Options we could consider together." Her mother raised an eyebrow, perhaps intrigued but skeptical. Emily pressed on, recalling her research, the case studies and testimonials she had gathered. Each story danced through her mind like a flickering beacon. These patients, people like you, have explored other avenues, and while they faced tremendous challenges, they also found glimpses of hope in different treatments. Emily, I've always trusted medical advice for a reason. Her mother's voice held that familiar note of caution. You know, the doctors have more experience with this. I know, Emily said, her pulse quickening. But what if we could also blend what we've learned with traditional methods? There's so much out there that could complement your treatment. It's not about dismissing the doctors, it's about empowering you. Emily started to envision the conversation they could forge, not just a plea but a dialogue where they both searched for direction and authentic partnership. But her mother's expression shifted from curiosity to resignation, deep furrows tracing across her brow. I don't want to be foolish, Emily. I want to make sure I'm not chasing after fantasies at the expense of doing what I need to just be safe. Yet the very essence of safety felt confining to Emily, and that realization ignited something within her, a fierce determination to illuminate what safe might mean outside their boundaries. But Mom, safety can also mean exploring life to its fullest. What if you missed out on something that could actually bring you relief? This shifted the conversation, the tension crackling softly between them. Emily could see her mother's wheels turning. She recognized the fear that gripped her mother's heart and yearned to translate that into something constructive. It's not just about survival, it's about how you want to live to thrive. A flicker of vulnerability crossed her mother's eyes as the weight of her daughter's words pressed against her defenses. Are you willing to be as invested in this as I am? Her mother asked, almost pleadingly, as if seeking confirmation. I am. Emily's voice softened, the words tumbling out more fiercely than intended. I will stand by you in every decision you make. This isn't just about your treatment, it's about you. It's your life, your choice. I just want you to feel empowered to make that choice. The room fell silent as they locked eyes, each heartbeat echoing their collective fear and hope. Emily wondered if her mother could truly grasp the weight of her emotion, the resolve coursing through her. But that spark of progress cast sharp shadows. What if her mother chose to reject the fight? That fear lingered in the corners of Emily's mind, threatening to overshadow everything she had just laid bare. The conversation had shifted, they were both standing at the precipice of a monumental decision. Would her mother be willing to intertwine those paths, or would the threshold of fear keep her from stepping forward? Emily's heart hammered as her mother took a deep breath, her gaze drifting to the window where distant light warmed the glass. Let me think about it, she finally murmured, and in that, Emily felt a fragility, a tentative possibility that could easily slip away. The tension hung palpably in the air, unresolved. Just as Emily began to ponder her mother's contemplation, a subtle knock startled both of them, pulling them back to the immediate reality. What unforeseen factors would now intrude upon their critical moment? The door creaked open, and a nurse entered, breaking the palpable tension. She was holding a clipboard, her expression professional yet warm. Good morning, Mrs. Henderson. How are we feeling today? Emily's heart sank slightly. This was not the moment she wanted interrupted. She took a deep breath, allowing her frustration to simmer beneath the surface. She needed her mother's focus, her attention, but this routine encounter felt like an anchor pulling them away from their crucial conversation. Her mother managed a small smile for the nurse, though it hardly disguised the weariness etched on her face. Just trying to decide on some options, her voice was a mere whisper, and Emily recognized her mother's instincts kicking in, instincts to comply with the very system Emily was hoping to challenge. As the nurse began her examination, discussing vitals and medication, Emily's mind raced. She couldn't afford to let their conversation slip into the background. This was her chance. Her moment. She needed to refocus, to reclaim the narrative. Mom, Emily interrupted gently, her voice steadier than she felt. While the nurse checks in, can we just remember what we talked about? About exploring other options? The nurse glanced between them, sensing the emotional weight. I can leave you two to discuss. "I'll be just outside if you need anything," she said, before backing out and closing the door behind her. "Emily," her mother began, weariness creeping back into her tone. "I don't want you to think I'm not listening. I worry about what could happen if we stray from the path established by the doctors." Emily felt the frustration inch back but fought to keep it contained. "I understand, Mom. But what if this could lead you to a better quality of life? It's not about dismissing them, it's about being proactive." Her mother looked down at her hands, fingers fidgeting with the edge of the blanket. The silence stretched, filled with the weight of unspoken fears. Taking her mother's hand gently in her own, Emily softened her approach. "This is about you. I want you to start feeling in control again. Remember how you used to fight for what you believed in? I want that for you." At that moment, something shifted within her mother. Emily could see the spark of will flicker to life behind her weary eyes. "I haven't felt that way in so long, Em. I've just been surviving, and now I feel lost." "Then let us take that journey together," Emily urged, her voice growing steadier with each word. "We can research options, speak with professionals, and create a plan that integrates what the doctors suggest with what you want. This is your life, your healing. Let us map it out together." Her mother bit her lip, then nodded slowly. "Okay," she whispered, a mixture of fear and hope churning in her expression. "But I need you to promise me we won't lose sight of reality." "I promise," Emily replied, her heart pounding. This was not a perfect solution, but it was a start, a stepping stone towards something bigger. As the new light of determination filled the room, Emily felt a crackling energy take hold. She could lead this charge. Yet, with each step forward, the nagging question of whether she was truly capable started to gnaw at her focus. Had she ever really been the type to lead, to advocate fiercely, especially in the face of medical adversities? The weight of her commitments molded her resolve into a formidable shape, but self-doubt threatened to crush it. Just then, her phone buzzed aggressively in her pocket, disrupting the fragile moment they had begun to build. As she glanced at the message, her breath caught in her throat. It was from a contact she hadn't spoken to in years, a name that awakened echoes of an unresolved past. A new approach, she thought, heart racing at the implications. Could this person offer insight that might expand her understanding of holistic and alternative therapies? "Mom, give me just a second," Emily said, the urgency in her voice now tinged with anticipation as she stared at the screen in disbelief. This unexpected connection could change everything. She needed to embrace the uncertainty of this moment, even as new paths unfurled before her, yet, even as hope flickered, lingering shadows loomed over her next steps. Would reaching out invite answers or more questions that could pull the mother-daughter duo back from where they began? Emily quickly thumbed a response, her heart racing not just from the weight of her current situation, but from the realization of how transformative this journey could truly be. The moment hung in the air, charged with both anticipation and dread. Emily felt the world around her fade into a muted background as she quickly typed a response to the message. Her fingers hesitated over the keys. She needed to be strategic, careful with her words. If this contact could provide insight into alternative therapies, then it was worth exploring, but could she trust this old connection? With each notification ping, Emily's anxiety transformed into determination. Memories surged of nights spent poring over holistic remedies during sleepless hours, driven by an unyielding need to save her mother. She felt the confusion and hope swirling within her. If she could fuse that knowledge with the advice of a seasoned professional, she might construct a viable alternative, a combination of both worlds she had previously seen as mutually exclusive. "Okay, let us do this," she whispered to herself, the quiet mantra grounding her. Adopting a more decisive tone, Emily turned to her mother, whose tired eyes remained fixed on the wall. "Mom, I need you to stay with me. I want to reach out to someone who might help us. This could be pivotal for you." Her mother blinked slowly, still processing the shift in plans. "Who?" she asked, skepticism lacing her voice. "An old friend from college. He's been working in holistic medicine, and I think he could provide a new perspective on your treatment." Just let me call him. The fear of slipping back into the old patterns of defeat lingered between them. Emily recognized it was not only her mother's fear but also her own. In a world dominated by medical rhetoric, could they advocate for what felt right? She pressed her phone to her ear and felt the pulse of her heart echo in her temples as the call connected. "Hey Jason, it's Emily," she said, her voice steady despite the whirlwind inside her. "I need your help with something important." The forthcoming conversation was enlightening. With Jason's experience and her own fearless commitment to action, they discussed alternative therapies and innovative practices that could complement her mother's ongoing treatment. Each word felt like a step towards liberation, undoing the tight knots of fear tangled within Emily's heart. As they spoke, her resolve solidified. "How soon can you come down?" She listened intently, absorbing his encouragement. The prospect of change was intoxicating, yet so fragile. What if he couldn't come through? What if this was just another dead end in her quest for her mother's healing? As she hung up the call, a small smile crept onto her face and faltered just as quickly. Her mother was looking at her, the flicker of hope again kindling in her expression. Emily mentally braced herself, aware that this was only the beginning. Would this fresh perspective truly alter their trajectory, or merely bring about another layer of frustration? "Mom," Emily began, her heart racing. "They say that true healing often involves embracing both the medical and the holistic. Are you willing to explore this with me?" Her mother remained silent, digesting the idea. Emily now faced two truths, the compelling need to act, and the burden of her mother's preferences. Their journey was layered with conflicting emotions, and the stakes felt overwhelmingly high. Both women had the chance to reclaim their voices, to guide their paths together. But the question loomed: would they find the strength to follow through? For an instant, the room pulsed with possibility, but as the gravity of their situation seeped back in, Emily wrestled with doubt once more. Had she orchestrated a revolution in her mother's care, or was this merely a fluttering hope destined to be dashed against the reality of the disease they faced together? Just then, another message blinked on Emily's phone screen, pulling her attention abruptly back. It was from Jason. "There is something we need to discuss, something you should know." The weight of the unknown hung heavy, whatever revelation awaited could further complicate their journey. Emily's hands trembled slightly as she hit read, bracing for the next twist in this life-altering chapter. Her heart raced, the tether between hope and terror tightening once more. Would this be the insight they desperately needed, or another unexpected hurdle to navigate? Emily's heart sank as she read Jason's text. The promise of a lifeline that she had clutched so tightly now felt distant and uncertain. What could be so important? She mused, anxiety gnawing at her composure. She took a deep breath, willing herself not to spiral into panic. This wasn't the moment for weakness. It was time to harness the urgency for her mother's sake. She glanced over at her mother who, still staring at the wall, was clearly deep in thought. Emily admired how resilient her mother had been, how deftly she had navigated her illness until now. But that strength, the one Emily had relied on for so long, was fraying. Emily felt the responsibility to fortify their feet together. A determination firing up inside her, she slid open her phone and opted to reply to Jason. "I just saw your message. What is going on?" The second stretched painfully while she awaited his response, a churning mixture of fear and hope brewing within her. While waiting, Emily's thoughts drifted to the call earlier. She had felt empowered exchanging ideas with Jason about therapies that intertwined both science and holistic practices. Yet now, the weight of uncertainty threatened to pull her back into the abyss of helplessness. Perhaps she was deluding herself into thinking they could find a unique path amidst conventional treatments. Just then, her phone buzzed again, as if mocking the uncertainty in her mind. "Hey, it's about your mom's condition," Jason's text read. "We need to meet. There is something you have to be aware of regarding her treatment options." Those words struck her like a physical blow. Emily felt like she was standing on a precipice, the ground beneath her feet crumbling. Anger mixed with fear flooded her mind. What does he know? She thought. Why must we meet? Can he not tell me now? The hint of conspiracy within the message unsettled her senses. In that moment, Emily realized that part of her growth hinged on leaning into discomfort, the fear of the unknown, the anxiety of confronting hidden truths. She couldn't afford to freeze before challenges anymore, not when her mother's well-being was at stake. No longer could she rely on the echo of past patterns of avoidance. "Okay," she replied decisively. "When can you come?" Each keystroke felt like a small step into bravery, though doubt still bubbled beneath the surface, taunting her. How could she trust someone when the stakes were so high? As she waited for a response, Emily turned back to her mother. "Mom, this is going to be a challenge for both of us. But we must face it together, no matter what. I'll keep looking for options that can help." Her mother's weary gaze shifted toward Emily, and for a moment, the tension softened. "You're stronger than you think, Em," her mother said quietly. "Just promise you'll take care of yourself too." "I promise," Emily replied, a sense of unity enveloping them. She understood now that their healing journey required more than just medical knowledge, it demanded a combined fortitude forged between them. The moment was fleeting as a new message pinged on her phone. "I'll be there tomorrow at 3 p.m. There's much to discuss." As she set her phone down, a sense of urgency gripped her. Tomorrow held the potential to alter everything. But as the shroud of uncertainty loomed larger, she couldn't shake the growing realization that some truths could rend asunder the fragile hope she had cultivated. Determined, Emily resolved to be prepared for whatever awaited. The stakes could no longer be a mere undercurrent, they needed to be confronted head-on. The idea that some secrets are better left unspoken would no longer bind her. Tomorrow was not just a meeting, it was a confrontation with reality. And she was ready to face that reality. As she continued to process, the shadows in the room grew longer, foreshadowing the turmoil that lay ahead. Each pulse of her heart echoed a boundary between the visceral fear of loss and the tenacity to heal. In the corner of her mind, doubt lingered, testing her resolve. What if Jason's revelations tied their hands more tightly? What if the revelation would upend everything she had believed about healing? Emily steeled herself, refusing to let fear outweigh her newfound courage. The truth awaited like a lion lying in grass. Tomorrow, she would uncover it, one way or another. With each passing moment, clarity dawned. She would reclaim control not just for herself, but for her mother too. But at what cost? Emily woke the next morning with a sense of urgency coursing through her veins. The sunlight poured into her room, but its warmth felt distant, muted by the weight of uncertainty that had settled over her. Today was pivotal, she could sense it in every fiber of her being. There was a meeting to prepare for, a confrontation that would reshape everything. As she showered, Emily replayed the possible scenarios in her head. What if Jason delivered life-altering information? What if he reiterated things she already knew but was too afraid to confront? A shiver ran through her as she rubbed shampoo into her hair, bubbles creating tiny worlds, mirrors reflecting her fears back at her. The balance between hope and despair teetered on the edge of her thoughts. She dressed carefully, choosing a simple yet professional outfit, a small armor for the battle ahead. Each button done and each crease smoothed out was a declaration. She was no longer just a daughter, she was a force of change, ready to fight for her mother's life. Before leaving the house, she took a moment with her mom, sharing breakfast. The quiet moments reminded her of their bond, a bond that had only grown under the weight of illness. "Mom, whatever happens today, we're doing this together," she said, and her voice wavered with honesty. Her mother offered a weak smile, laced with concern. "I have faith in you, Em. Just remember to breathe." The advice ricocheted through Emily's mind. Breathe. Steady. Ground yourself. But it was easier said than done. As she drove, her mind whirred with possibilities, each thought a potential pathway that branched into something unimaginable. Arriving early at the cafe where they were to meet, she took a moment to gather her thoughts while staring out the window onto the bustling street. People passed by, engrossed in their own lives, and she felt a sliver of envy. Each face seemed to carry burdens unknown to her, yet they moved forward, seemingly unencumbered. Emily shifted her focus back to the present. She pulled her phone from her pocket and read through her notes on holistic practices they had discussed, her instincts reminding her of the potential paths they could explore. Could she be the one who challenged conventions? Could she truly advocate for her mother, pioneering treatment routes others hadn't thought possible? The thought both thrilled and terrified her. The dance between pushing boundaries and playing it safe felt uncomfortably familiar. Emily. Jason's voice cut through her ruminations, shaking her from her reverie. She turned and saw him approaching, his expression a mix of empathy and determination. She steadied her breath, taking him in. There was urgency in his demeanor, signaling the gravity of what lay ahead. "Thanks for coming," she managed to say, her voice firmer than she felt. "Of course. I know this isn't easy." They settled into a small nook at the back of the cafe, the atmosphere buzzing around them, but Emily felt encased in an invisible bubble, isolating them from everything else. Jason wasted no time, diving into her mother's treatment protocols and existing options. The words rolled off his tongue, clinical and measured, yet Emily felt the tension spike within her. "Your mom's current treatment isn't responding as we hoped," Jason finally said, his gaze piercing through her as if gauging her reaction. "We need to consider alternative therapies seriously." Emily's mind raced. This was what she had anticipated, the threshold had been crossed, and now they were confronting a stark reality. Reeling from the blow of his admission, she grappled with anger, confusion, and an exhilarating sense of responsibility. "Why didn't anyone tell us sooner?" she snapped, the question bursting forth with raw emotion. "Because there's a complexity to her case," he replied, calm in the storm of her turmoil. "But we need to decide what's the next step for her." Faced with stark choices, Emily paused. This was a moment that could fracture her, or forge her anew. In that instant, she realized she was more capable than she had ever given herself credit for. "Then we'll explore all avenues," she declared, her voice resonating with newfound authority. Jason nodded, and for the first time, Emily felt the faint stirrings of control. The looming shadows of doubt still cast an uncertain pall, but clarity was igniting a fierce resolve inside her. As they began laying out strategies for her mother's next chapter, the stakes escalated to an unsettling height. The meeting had transformed into a battleground, where decisions would reverberate through their lives. What felt like uncertainty now hinted at a possibility for transformation, the first real opportunity to challenge the status quo. Would she have the strength to chase what was daunting? As the world blurred around her, one thing remained clear: Emily was ready to fight, to shape the narrative surrounding her mother's illness. But as they navigated complex decisions, deeper truths threatened to rise, spinning her perception further, and just as she thought they had found solid ground, Jason hesitated. "There's something else you should know." Emily sat in the cafe, her fingers clenching tightly around the cup of coffee, barely touching its warmth. The swirling conversation with Jason had reached an electrifying point. His gaze was steady, filled with compassion but tinged with urgency. "Emily, I need to tell you about the implications of the alternative treatments we can pursue. Your mother's case is delicate, and these decisions could change everything." Taking a deep breath, Emily felt a surge of determination flood through her. This was the moment she had prepared for. She could no longer be a passive observer. "I'm ready to hear it. Whatever it is, we'll confront it together. My mom deserves our full commitment." Her words hung in the air, vibrant and resolute. "Okay. Here's the truth. Some of these alternative therapies may not have the rigorous clinical trials proving their effectiveness. They may offer hope, but they can also divert from conventional treatment, and that's a risk." His brows furrowed, gauging her reaction. A flicker of doubt clawed at her heart, but Emily quickly swallowed it down. "Diverting might be the only way to reclaim my mother's quality of life. I want to explore options that treat her as a whole person, not just a collection of symptoms." Jason nodded, acknowledgement shining in his eyes. "I admire your courage. There will be skeptics, even within the medical community. But your voice matters, now more than ever. In that moment, Emily felt the transformative power of her journey. She was no longer the hesitant girl who entered the janitor's closet that day. She had grown into a formidable advocate who understood that real empowerment stemmed from knowledge and unwavering commitment. "We'll map out a plan that intertwines both approaches," she declared, a renewed fire in her tone. "Mom ought to have every possible chance." As they discussed logistics, research studies, consultations with holistic practitioners, and potential follow-ups, the future began to take shape ominously like an artist's sketch coming into focus. Each word they strategized fortified Emily's resolve, integrating newfound knowledge with love. They crafted a robust presentation of options that balanced both traditional and alternative therapies, ready to bring to her mother. When Emily returned home that evening, armed with a wealth of information and a decidedly more assertive stance, she found her mother resting. "Mom, I want to talk to you about something significant," she said, her voice steady yet gentle. Her mother's eyes, now brighter with curiosity, prompted Emily to continue. She laid out the plan they had meticulously crafted, mindful of every pause and inflection. "We can explore treatments beyond what conventional methods offer. What I've learned is powerful and can give you a voice in your healing process." Her mother, still weary but radiating warmth, listened intently. "Emily, you've put so much thought into this. I can see the fire in your eyes. But are you sure you're ready for the uncertainties?" "Uncertain is where we find growth," she replied firmly. "You fought so hard, Mom. This is about reclaiming not just survival, but joy, control, and life itself." What followed was a conversation that transformed the room. Their words sculpted shared resolve from the ashes of doubt. Emily could see the flicker of acceptance reflected back, a warning flame kindling in her mother's heart. Within weeks of their collaboration, they began implementing changes. They met with holistic practitioners who shared inspiring testimonials from patients who had thrived by pairing traditional medicine with alternative treatments. Together, Emily and her mother navigated a path that allowed both of their voices to rise above the fray of indecision. The grapevine of victories blossomed between them. Emily helped her mother maintain an active role in her own treatment decisions. As they celebrated small successes like her mother's increased mobility and better coping with symptoms, Emily reclaimed a persistent echo that had defined them: hope, sitting in the hospital room under the bright gaze of afternoon sun. Emily's confidence resonated in her posture. Dr. Hargrove entered, reviewing her mother's progress with palpable appreciation. "It's remarkable to see this level of engagement from both of you. Thank you for challenging the norms," he said, his voice now laced with respect. Emily's heart surged with pride. She had proven not just her competence, but embraced her role as a leader in the healing process. No longer just a girl hoping for change, she was now the catalyst for it. Days turned into weeks, their journey unfolded into new territories. Each decision made in unison strengthened their bond, a profound reminder that resilience flourished in unity. Emily had conquered her doubts, becoming an empowered advocate supported by her indelible love for her mother. As she stepped out of the hospital one last time, a smile lit up her face. They had rebuilt not only the hope of healing but had also forged a renewed sense of purpose and identity that solidified her as a formidable changemaker both in her life and in her mother's journey. Now it was clear, Emily was ready to face the next challenge with unwavering confidence. In her heart, she understood that true transformation stemmed from the courage to advocate, a truth that would carry her into every avenue of her life ahead. This is where their story reaches a conclusion, one marked by challenges faced, voices discovered, and hearts committed to thriving against the odds. You need to subscribe now to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Your support matters greatly. Comment your reactions and theories about this journey and what Emily has accomplished. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to share. Real support for these stories is what keeps them alive.